All right, good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and get started. I'm calling this meeting to order. It's the Commissioner Status Update, June 13, 2023. The time is 10 a.m. In attendance are Commissioners Brooks, Matari, and Duncan. Are there any changes to the agenda? Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead with our first item, and this is update on BOE language on the Kootenai County website. And Bruce, you're taking this?
Yeah, this was basically in an effort to just kind of clarify information for the property owners on what to do if they believe that their property is not correctly valued. And so the language that's on the website, I think, led to some issues. And I have just a handout here for each of you that just kind of shows, this first page shows what's on the website right now, and then I just kind of highlighted where some changes would be made. And if you look on the second page, those are the proposed changes that are highlighted in blue. The yellow highlight is actually on the website. And I agree that this language definitely, I think, would help. It's basically just saying that the first step to an appeal process is actually filing the paperwork. But before you do that, we're just requesting that people speak with the assessor's office first. I think the current language that's on the website suggests that by discussing your issue with the assessor's office, that is the first step towards the appeal, but you actually have to submit a document.
Correct.
And that's what initiates the process. Now, I did just get something from the assessor literally about 180 seconds ago. And so I don't know what the differences are between the language you have in here and what you submitted to me earlier in the month. So, I'd like a chance to at least look at it before I go, let's put it up there. But, I wanted to at least make sure the board had this stuff so they could take a look at it.
Yeah.
Commissioners, if I may comment on that, the language that I gave you on June 6 was suggestion, a draft language. I did catch a couple of typos in that. The little note that I gave you just now is not necessarily, I'm not suggesting you change your website to this. This is what we are telling people, which is, I believe this dovetails into what changes you are making. If your recommended changes are consistent with what we're saying here, that there's no real difference, not a materially significant difference. What we're trying to do is obtain information from property owners when they come to visit our office, answer their questions. If, for whatever reason, they decide to still file an appeal, this is simply a handout that we give to them, and all it does is it really directs them to your website. So I don't believe that there's a material significant difference in what we're telling them. So.
Well, then what I would propose is that with the board's approval, we could go with this initial set of language that you sent me. And then if there's any differences grammatically or so forth, we can make those edits. If there's anything materially, then I think it would only be fair that the board have a chance to look at it. So
I think that's an excellent idea. There is no excuse for what happened to us.
Last year.
Was it last year? God, it seems like forever. Because the people who came in weren't trying to game the system. They just flat didn't understand how the system works. I had a fellow I knew who was a longtime attorney in town who deals in real estate. And he came in and he was just pounding on the table. And I explained it to him. And he, of course, did not get what he wanted. And he didn't talk to me for 4 months. But that's how little he understood. And if he didn't understand, there's a lot of other people who don't understand. And we saw many of them. I mean, many of them. So this is a good thing. And thank you, Ayla. Thank you, Bruce. These are good things.
okay, so then with your approval, I'll work with our assessor here just to make sure that the language is, there's no grammatical issues, and
Yep.
and then give it to Jonathan to push up.
Yep.
So, okay. Thank you.
Okay. Item 2, support letter for Charter Communications Broadband ARPA grant application. I've asked, it's Michelle, to come and speak to that.
Thank you. Michael Bennett, Resource Management Office for the record. Our office held a conference call with a couple of representatives from the internet provider Charter Communications on Friday, May 26th. And we discussed their broadband infrastructure grant application, which is being funded by the Idaho ARPA Capital Projects Fund. One of the requirements of the grant is that they solicit support letters from, quote, state agencies, local governments, subdivisions, tribal governments, nonprofits, et cetera, in the impacted communities where their projects that they're applying for, funding for would be, and Kootenai County is one of those communities. So they've already received several support letters, and they're now seeking a letter of support from the Board of County Commissioners to meet this criteria and engage the community here in the county. Any required match funds will be covered by charter, so they're only requesting this letter of support. We've reviewed everything, and we recommend that you guys support their application and believe it will benefit the county as a whole. If you want more details, I have more details.
Are there projects in the unincorporated area of Kootenai County?
It is specifically focused on rural areas. They have a very well-established presence in the 95 corridor, I-90 corridor, and within Coeur d'Alene and Post Falls and Hayden. And so the grant is specific for rural areas and underserved, unserved communities, homes, businesses, agencies, that sort of thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is your department willing to write the letter?
Yes, we've started a draft if that's open to you, and just they had sent us a template, so we just kind of looked that over, and yeah, we're definitely willing to put that together for you.
Sure. So I'm fine. It's just a letter of support, no other time or money from the county.
Yeah, I'm just curious, are there any constituencies that don't have high-speed internet in Kootenai County that want it?
Oh,
I don't know
that
about-
want it, because I was going to
Yeah.
say, that'd be me, but I don't want it. So, yeah, my neighborhood does not.
They did identify some areas, as in Rathdrum area and Athol areas, outlying areas, on certain parts of the outlying areas of the lakes, as well as south. When you go south towards Worley, there are gaps in there as well.
But that's where people want the service and they're not getting it.
Correct. They work with a lot of schools, Charter does.
Yeah.
As well as, not only just with the schools, but to identify homes and families that are in need of higher broadband, is particularly fiber. This covers fiber in a large capacity. And so getting that, they have been able to identify a lot of communities and homes and families that need that.
Okay.
How much money are we talking here?
For them, personally, they have broken it down into 7
Projects.
smaller applications.
Just total it up for me.
I do not know if I have that number on me. I believe that,
Or ballpark it if you don't have to.
I think they can receive up to, I think it was 5 million
5 million.
up to.
And does that come out of the money that the county has got?
No, it is state funds that are distributed by the Idaho Broadband Project
That's
Committee.
all I need to know.
Yeah, so all
you.
state funds.
Thank you.
Jelena, did you have a?
I had a question because I wasn't aware of this. Does this mean that we will be facilitating it like we have in the past?
It does not
No.
at all. This is only a support letter. They have everything already in place.
So
Yeah.
we won't be doing any of the accounting?
None of
Okay.
it.
No.
No.
Perfect.
So, okay, I'm fine if they want to submit us a letter to sign. All right? Are you
Yeah.
good with that? Okay. Thank you, Michael, for coming.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, item 3, coroner's expansion. And we've got Dr. Duke Johnson, our coroner, and we have Keith Hutchison, our AMP director, part of the facilities working group. So, gentlemen.
Oh, you'll just do.
Well, it's Dr. Duke Johnson. They contacted me and they were talking about the office space that they have currently. They only have currently the South Pod where they're at right now. They contacted me on June 1st and says, "Hey, we'd like to be part of this facilities meeting talk so we can get moving forward with what we need also." And I was like, "Well, matter of fact, we're meeting on the 5th." So I took down some notes from them on the 1st, and then on the 5th brought it up to the board. And what we did on the, we talked about it on the board June 5th is what I wanted to come forward to you. Currently, the pod right next to them which, is not being used. It's only being used just for storage. So I went up and met with them, and they were just saying we need to be able to punch a couple holes through the door so basically the upper level and the lower level connect with each other, and then they can be on, they can have double their size in office space. They need it, for meeting with the public. And also we have a couple of new deputy coroners coming on. So they need the space for the office space up top there so they can do their work. Currently, it's not being used. It's just a storage area. So again, we kind of complain a lot about not having room, but we do have room available right now for them available to do this. So I had Tom look at it and say, "Hey, can we do this in-house?" Tom was graciously to go over and look at it. To increase their workspace area, it would cost about $7,500. I'd like to see if we could get something approved in that aspect of it today so we can move forward with it because we have the larger project of the Kootenai North coming forward. So there's going to be some busy time going on with that. So if I can get something going quicker, a little bit quicker with the corner, I think it can be done. And I don't want to speak to Tom's timeline, but he said it would be pretty quickly upon us. So just looking, that was the timeline and what I was requesting to try to help out.
And in relation to that, one of the reasons for having that is part of our application for accreditation with the national organization requires that we have a separate meeting room for meeting with families. That's just part of their requirements. And so we've made that application, and so right now we're waiting for the on-site visit by the staff, from the national organization to do a site visit. And with that site visit, we need to have, that's why the request now, because we need to have that room ready for the accreditation process. And again, the accreditation process, the purpose for that is that that's what qualifies us for an expansion of funds that will be available from a national level that we aren't currently available for because we're not accredited. So the whole purpose of this process is to make us available for additional funding.
Okay, and we can't approve anything today because it's not an action item, but we can bring it back for Tuesday's business meeting with maybe a not to exceed 10,000 or something to that effect. And then probably, obviously we're in our busy season now and we don't know what the next few months are going to hold, but I would again say if your budget could cover it, and then if not, at the end of the year, then we'll take fund balance and match that. But questions?
Nope.
Just, it's okay to move forward and bringing that forward, and it's a good idea.
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm good with it. So,
Thank you.
you bet. Okay, item 4, PMR location, annex or 5500 North Government Way. The facilities group pretty much talks about this every week or every time we meet, and it seems to change direction every time as we get new information. So at this point, because the new building, when it opens, it will be full, I hesitate to use the annex here because we may have overflow situations and we don't know where community development's going and things like that. So we talked about the sheriff's office would probably be, the sheriff's office being vacated if we approve the next item, would be probably an ideal location. It'd be the least expensive to try to go ahead and work that out. So I didn't know, Sylvia, if you had some thoughts, and I don't know that Alliance had a tour of the main admin portion So we need to do that.
Sylvia Proud for the record. We do have a tour scheduled for Thursday at 2 o'clock, and that'll include Will, Corey, Alliant, and HR in that meeting to just look at the facility and get some feedback. There is an exec from PMR here this week, so most likely that gentleman will attend as well.
Okay, that'd be great. So any thoughts from the board on the potential, if the Kootenai North move is approved and they vacate that, thoughts of putting the PMR clinic there?
The only thought that comes to my mind is the fact that it's kind of a hardened facility. So we spent a lot of money for that. And the question is there another county function that would fit in a hardened facility better than an examination office?
Sure.
Or is there materials that can be taken from the existing sheriff's office and used for the new sheriff's office, in which case it would be less hardened. That's really the only thought that comes to my mind, because it really is a pretty different building from the rest of the county
Sure.
buildings.
And we can task the facilities group to, relook at that, but at this point, there hasn't been any other departments that really are going to work out at this point. They're not without $1 million in renovation. So that's where we're kind of.
What about that building? Is it the Compton building?
It is. We kind of decided against that, though, because of moving the fence and stuff like that. But, I mean, is that still an option? Grant can speak to that. It would displace IT, and IT's location they wanted to go to is not available anymore.
Grant Kinsey, IT, for the record. Yeah, we've looked at a lot of different options. I think we've circled around the entire county probably 3 or 4 times. And what we've come down to is, unfortunately, the location of the sheriff's office being right next to the jail ends up having a little bit of a stigma that comes with it. And so having any of our departments that are serving the public in any way, it's kind of off-putting for them to be right there. And so where we've kind of arrived in the facility committee is something like PMR, where it's only employees going in and using that facility. I think that's one of the reasons we ended up at that in that position for that, because we basically have to put it somewhere, and everywhere we've looked, it's either too costly or it's too hard to displace the people that are there to move them elsewhere, because we looked at moving like driver's license and DMV out to the sheriff's office, and then putting PMR here, but we're talking almost $1 million, I think, by the time we totaled it all up. So where the facility, it is hardened, but it is a lot closer to move-in ready for something like an examination office than most of the facilities that we have in the county.
And what about the square footage there?
It's bigger, so we're looking at other things going into it. I think that's why HR is going out to look at it with us. I don't know if they were looking at going out there possibly?
No, we're
Okay.
just looking at it from the clinic's
From the clinic
perspective, as far
perspective.
as I know. And that was one of the concerns that came forward when we heard about the 2 locations, is our employees are bringing small children and family members to the clinic, so being close in proximity to a detention facility with release or visitations was a concern, but we're gonna look at it open-minded and see what we can come up with. We appreciate that this is available to us.
Yeah, and then just maybe the only other consideration is the fact that, we're kind of busting at the seams right now, and I expect us to continue that process. And so if there's more space than what they would actually need, what are we going to do with that space? Who's going to be in there? And can it be used for other functions? Because if they're not going to use it all, then
That's what the facility group is dealing with.
yeah. Well, those are my questions, so.
Yeah,
Okay.
fair. So I guess I would just look to Lieutenant Klinkefus and, I mean, are there a lot of visitations? I mean, they just get released through the front door? I mean, what would be the conflict if we had used admin.
They do. The only, it wouldn't necessarily be any conflict, but we had one tour where Sylvia was present, and as we exited the building, there were several inmates out sitting on the curb that had been released, right, and they're waiting for rides. And so there is a chance that families or kids may have to possibly interact with somebody who had just been released from the jail. And so if that's a scenario that would be okay with you, then so be it. But if not, it was a concern possibly that could be brought up.
I don't think there's any ideal place,
Right.
but I think the idea of the fact that the jail, the sheriff's office is hardened is not necessarily a bad thing, because you will have medical records in there, stuff like that, but I don't see it as a problem, really. It's handicapped accessible, which is very good.
Yeah.
And there is more space than we need, but I'm sure we can find a way to, in other words, we're gonna have to bite the bullet.
I think the clinic needed 2,200 square feet, right? And that upper floor is in and around 7,500, give or take, so
Yeah.
plenty of room for it there.
Yeah. So it's an ongoing discussion. There's no decisions being made. And actually, today is the first opportunity where I wanted the board to be able to make a decision after the presentation for Kootenai North. And so I would just say that I've been going to the sheriff's office for over 5 years, probably regularly, and I have never had one issue. So maybe I go on off times, I don't know, but I've pretty much been there day, night, and I haven't had one thing. So that's just been my experience. So, okay.
Leslie,
Yes.
just a quick question. Do you want us to hold off on touring the annex or take it off the plate right now? Or
No,
should
go
we
ahead and tour it. Yeah, we have to, this is what's happening. We're just trying to throw all the balls in the air and find out which spot they land in. So, and like I said before in one of the budget meetings, it's like, there's no perfect place for PMR. We're trying to get it up and running as soon as possible. If we wanted to wait a couple years, maybe the perfect place would show up. But right now, we're just trying to find a location and get that going.
Now, the annex is 2 floors, right?
It is 2 floors. I don't think it's 3 floors. And I don't think it's going to be as convenient as,
Are all 3 floors accessible?
no, all 3 floors are not accessible.
And Commissioners, if I may, just one other point that came up in the Facilities Planning Committee. With the next item on the agenda, moving the sheriff out to Kootenai North, that does present the sheriff as the first available vacant building to work with, which is another big strategy as far as PMR comes on. With the contract starting at the beginning of the year, anything else would be a significant delay and cause a lot of time and money to get a facility ready for PMR, whereas we have a building that's empty already and very little needed to make it adequate for their needs.
Because at this point, I think the admin portion to the left when you walk in, that should be, that's already offices for exam rooms, maybe, put some sinks in. And I think because it's the second floor, we wouldn't have a problem with plumbing. So I think that area could probably be done in what, Corey, a month or two? After they're all moved out? 2 months. Yeah. So probably 2 months. So, yeah. So we'll get more into, the vacation of that building in the next item. So, but continue to consider all options until we have to make that final decision. But that's kind of where we're at right now. So, all right, anything further on the PMR location? Nope. Okay. On to our last item, Sheriff's Office moving to Kootenai North. And Lieutenant Klinkafus has a presentation for us.
Okay, Commissioners, I gave you some updated documents that we hadn't had from before. One was the original proposal, which I updated quite a bit inside of. Just wanted to recap just a couple quick things. Several positives about this move if it's approved. KCSO Maintenance is looking for space. They've outgrown the space that they're currently in. We would be vacating the marine shop area and the county vehicle shop area, which they would reoccupy, so it would solve their problem. The Pierce Clegg building, we would not be occupying any longer, which is helping out, obviously, the coroner in his endeavors for more space. It would leave additional space in that building for another county department. I don't know how many want to co-locate with a coroner, but it would still be space available for them to be able to occupy. The KCSO main campus building, as we've already spoken to, would be vacated for somebody or something to occupy. The MCC building, which is a large insulated pole building next to the Pierce Clegg building, again, would be vacated by us so that somebody else could utilize it. I believe the coroner has looked at that. I heard the other day that maybe CityLink is still possibly looking at it too. Again, that's just another building that would possibly solve somebody else's problems for more space. In talking with, consulting with Corey Trapp and his folks, that one document I gave you, we kind of lined out the major projects that we would like to be done for move-in, and he's got his numbers there. Again, these are very preliminary estimates. He believes that his estimates are high, anywhere between 900,000 and 1.5 million, depending on where the bids come out. There's obviously some wiggle room inside of those. Looking down that list, the remodel of the two-story addition, that's for the detectives building. That building has a possibility to have the second floor expanded. That project would include installing 2 interview rooms and a bathroom upstairs, and additionally a lift, a one-person lift to make it ADA compatible. The evidence storage remodel area, I kind of believe that that's a little bit of a high estimate in my mind. We just got to dig into the weeds. We haven't done that yet, because again, how many calories do we burn on getting this to fruition? I think once we get into the weeds of this, it's not going to be as in-depth as we believe it's going to be, but that's so that we can have a evidence storage space in there. The lobby remodel is the big one. That's basically hardening of the lobby, building out a couple service windows that are hardened, and there are 3 spaces in there that would be enclosed from the lobby that would be additional office spaces. And then the women's locker room, again, in the locker room area of that building, there's no facilities for females currently. So there is a dry room that could be converted to that. And then a couple additional office spaces out in the warehouse area have been proposed as well. There is, I've talked to the rec safety folks, there's some dollars in the rec safety budget in the vessel account that could help offset some of that cost. But again, that's the numbers as they sit in front of you. The other document I gave you that's got the highlighted portion on it, these are additional numbers not included in Corey's estimates. The top one there, the estimated of $5,000, that's some for soundproofing, audio and video for the wired interview rooms to be done. In the evidence area, again, another $10,000 for additional shelving, miscellaneous costs. Again, we're not there yet, so I'm not sure exactly what that looks like, but that's just an estimate. Additional workstations, which will be built internally by KCSO Maintenance for records and civil. There's a 5-bay pole building out there, as you know. We got an estimate already from a contractor to finish the concrete floor inside of that and add 5 roll-up bay doors, which would allow us for additional inside storage for equipment to keep it out of the weather. Fencing is the next one down. That's already been estimated by a contractor for secure fencing for the employee parking. And then additionally, we have to fence off and re-secure a place for evidence vehicles. KCSO, or let's see, IT support, I believe we're still around the $30,000 estimate-ish for IT support for the building. That's from Grant Kinsey for the estimate. The yellow portion there is for the shop. Those items in yellow are in the budget requested in the budget for fiscal year 24. The items that are not highlighted are additional requests. So in addition to the project list here from Corey, we're in and around $151,312 of additional asks. Again, this is all very preliminary because a lot of it's just estimate, other than the ones that are that say contracted. We actually have bids from a contractor for those smaller projects. So again, that's kind of where we're sitting. In essence, we're kind of spinning our wheels on the project until we're able to go out to get the drawings and engineering done so that we can put it out to bid so that we have a more realistic number
Right.
to go by.
And I'll just bring that up that today at 2 o'clock we'll be asked to approve Corey's work on this project so far. What we planned on being this much has turned into this much, so that will be coming before us at 2 o'clock today.
You mean what plan on this much became that much?
Yeah, Corey's time and effort in this, getting these estimates and all the site work that he's been visiting. So, questions at this point?
Nope.
If I may just point out one more thing, just for the record, if you approve this project, KCSO will be giving approximately 30,000 square feet of additional space that other departments could occupy. So I think it's a good asset to the county to be able to have that space to expand other departments into.
Okay. So at this point, I would like to have a week to think on it and put it on the business meeting for approval to go forward. And then maybe you and I, Will, can meet, I don't know if we want the whole group to make sure that we're only going forward to,
It's on there first.
to go see exactly what we need to get in the front door, if that makes sense. So that's kind of what I'd like to do, and then be able to have at least next year's budget idea as well. So not just 24, but 25, if that makes sense. So, yes, it's a discussion item today, and we'd have to bring it to a business meeting anyway to get the money approved and stuff like that, so.
Do you want us to request for next week's business meeting then? Is that what
Yes.
you're looking for? Okay.
If you can make a decision by then?
Oh, on whether to proceed to get the drawings and the architectural work done?
Yeah, like commit. We're committing to KCSO moving to Kootenai North and the expenses that go with it.
So we're committing to the $1.5 million?
Well, that's what Will and I are going to meet with, but essentially, yes. So we're
Bailey,
gonna-
do you have something to say?
Commissioners, I would like to, Commissioner Duncan, since you're mentioning, and thank you very much, since you're mentioning discussion purposes, approximately 8 to 9 months ago, when I had the opportunity to go out and visit the North Building, we noticed that there were some payment stations that were there already in place. I have received numerous requests from the public asking about a vehicle licensing location on the north side. And so I would ask that the board please consider that. I know that the sheriff has needs that need to be met, and I apologize for catching off guard. I meant to reach out to Sheriff Norris ahead of time, but I would like the board to please consider that as a possibility by providing one sort of satellite location with a few payment stations which are already existing in that building. That might be a way of serving the public with vehicle licensing, just for your consideration.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. Anything further, Sheriff? Anything? So we know that you have to maintain a office here in the county seat. So just want to make sure that we keep that in our forefront of our mind.
Yeah, somewhere next to you three would be perfect.
We'll see what we can do. Conference room might be available.
Perfect.
All right. If that's it, then please put it on next week's business meeting, and so we can, and probably make one more list to just say, these are the projects we're approving right now next week, and then go from there. So, okay, anything else? Public comment?
Chairman Duncan, we did get one public comment online
Okay.
for the letter of support. Username Tunnel Lord 1337 said, "What happens if you don't give letters of support?"
That's a great question, and I would imagine since Michael indicated that they already have letters of support for the broadband, that the project will probably go through even without our letter of support. So, okay, nothing further. 10:35 meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.